to be there for reference. And I walked around all day with a frying pan, and at one point beat Prussia in a sword fight with it. True story. And then we have my Jade Harley cosplay, which is from a webcomic called Homestuck. And if you know what that is, don't look at me. And if you don't know what it is, don't look it up. With the Hungary costume, this was stuff I pulled out of my closet and my friends' closets. And I bought a hair clip at Claire's. So this was very like MacGyvered. Like it was things we found, things we bought, a little bit of sewing on the part of a friend's mom. The Jade Harley costume was when my grandmother started to teach me how to sew. She did most of the work. I taught myself how to do the beading around the symbol on the shirt, which I was very proud of, and I made the little ears. This was my first experience with cyberbullying. There was a notorious Tumblr account that gave unsolicited advice specifically to Homestuck cosplayers, and I was told that my costume was too brown. I was photographed standing under trees. It was black. Anyway, and my ears were too floppy. Wrecked my self-esteem at the ripe old age of 13. By the way, 13, way too young to read Homestuck. Wouldn't recommend. I started learning how to sew. At first with my grandmother, and when she passed away, may her memory be a blessing, a friend's mom continued to teach me. It was my brother's friend. So my brother would go hang out with his friend, and I would go with him to hang out with the friend's mom. She did most of the work on the Ryuko Matoi cosplay, but she started teaching me how to sew. I was 15. My mom mandated the length of the skirt. I was like, that's not accurate. My mom was like, it's too short, not happening. And I was like, fine. And then my Asuitsuyu gym uniform was the first thing I ever sewed by myself from scratch without any help. So that was a big milestone for me. And I also styled the wig, and you can't really see it, but she's got this weird bow happening in the back. And I made like a scuffed picture tutorial for that on Instagram, and the wig company that I bought the wig from featured it, and it was like, I made it, my big break. So that was exciting. That was I was just kind of starting to find my way. How did cosplay lead to design? In a couple of ways. Something called a gajinka is when you take a non-human creature or object. It can be anything from a Pokemon to a teacup, and you make it human. So like the Beauty and the Beast musical, where all the like forks and spoons and cups and wardrobes are like people in costumes, that's basically a gajinka. So we did a Madoka Magica group, and I wanted one of my friends to be included, and I said, how can we do that? Because these are all a bunch of like little cutesy girlies, and we've got like one guy friend. And the answer was, take this little crap and make it person. So, and I was also self-taught, teaching myself how to draw. So that I had a lot of fun with that. And then my like fancy version of Kyoko over here. So I put how she looks in the show versus my kind of like fantastical reimagining of her. To this day, still want to actually sew that piece, but haven't gotten around to it. And then after I moved here, after I graduated from high school, I started getting competitive and competing specifically at Anime Los Angeles, which is every January in Long Beach. So my Freya costume over here was my first time doing like a legitimate masquerade at an anime convention. Masquerade is what they call the cosplay contest. And I won first place craftsmanship in the novice division. So that was really exciting because it was my first competition, and I didn't expect to win anything. Taking first place meant after my first competition, I was bumping up to then competing in Journeyman. So the following year, I competed with my Loki costume, and I took runner-up. So it means I'm still in Journeyman. If I take a first place prize in Journeyman. I'll be bumped up to Masters, which is the top level of competing in cosplay contests. But I learned a lot with both of these, but it really solidified a love of competing in me. Because it's so much fun, like the energy backstage, getting to look at everybody else's hard work and flip their seams and learn from their techniques and make friends who are also passionate about it. And I loved everything about it, from making the costume to the design of it, and I decided, okay, let me go to school and study that. I went to CSUN, and CSUN didn't have a costume design degree, so I majored in apparel design and production, which did give me a more overall well-rounded sort of application, because I learned about textiles, I learned about the fashion industry, I had actual sewing classes, so I feel like it was good in a lot of ways. And in my senior year of university, I had WonderCon and my senior fashion show within the same span of 3 or 4 months. And I really wanted to do the WonderCon masquerade, but I knew I could not pull off making a new costume for the WonderCon masquerade and a whole line of pieces for my senior fashion show. So I went up to my professor and I said, hey, I know this is a fashion show, but you know I've been interested in costume design and there's not really a costume. Can I, as long as it, like, is still, like, because we were given a theme for the fashion show, and it was something, the future of fashion, I think, was the theme. And I was like, it's really, like, the book is based, like, in, like, thousands of years in the future, like, it fits, right? And I'm like, feeling like she's probably not gonna let me do it, and she's like, yeah, go for it. I'm like, let's go! Yippee! So I made this one all from, didn't mean to touch the TV, this one all from scratch. This one I had no hand in, I'll be upfront about that. These two I designed, and then we did a lot of thrifting and taking things apart, putting them back together, dyeing them, adding things. The vests I drafted from scratch, and then the green dress, which did not make it to WonderCon, was only in the fashion show. So these designs were based on a book series called the Locked Tomb series, and because it's a series of novels, there's no visual, so I had to design everything myself, which was a lot of fun. Really got my creative juices flowing. I referenced fan art and read and reread passages from the book to get an idea of how the characters were being described. Dulcinea, which is the seafoam green on the far, is that right or left to you guys? Who cares? She was described as something along the lines of like wearing a frivolous monstrosity of ruffles in seafoam green, something along those lines. I don't remember off the top of my head anymore, but I was trying to channel something very elegant, but also very covered in ruffles and flair, whereas Harrow Hark is a decrepit nunlet of the Locked Tomb and paints her face as a skull every day of her life. So it was a lot of fun playing around with the different characters. And that was a tight deadline, and that was a lot to do in a short period of time. Luckily, my friends helped me immensely, so I give a huge thank you and credit to Taylor and Mason and Ari for helping me with that. But yeah, that was my senior fashion show, and what now? I graduated. What am I doing now? Trying to start a small business. Here's the thing. Going into the costume design industry, like in Hollywood, it would be great if I was an able-bodied individual, able to be awake for 12 hours at a time and do crazy hours and that kind of thing. I have narcolepsy, so I just go to sleep sometimes. It's not super doable, so I had to pivot because I realized, hey, the costume design industry, not super accommodating. So my dad said, hey, I mean, if you're your own boss, you make your own hours. So we're trying that out. The idea is subtle fandom, wearable, casual stuff. So, you know, there's a time and a place for a t-shirt with like 3 anime characters emblazoned across the front that says Demon Slayer. Like, love it. I wear it. It's great. Sometimes you want something a little more subtle, a little more on the down low, so that when you're walking across the street, someone doesn't go, weeb! Subtle. But something that's still very like mature and elegant and also comfortable and accessible. Because like I said, I am someone who is living with chronic illness. I don't want itchy seams. I don't want tight, like, you know, things that don't move with me, or like unbreathable fabrics, or like, I'm not a stranger to like wig headaches and like the most uncomfortable costume you've ever put on your body. The reason Loki lives here is because I wore it once and I said, that's enough. That's enough forever. So this is upholstery pleather. It's not meant to go on your body. I didn't know that. So, yeah. Now, how do you go about taking a design and then making it 100 garments? It's a lengthy process. This is where I'm at right now. But, you know, you got to draft your flat sketches. You got to finalize your design. You got to create a tech pack. What's a tech pack? If there's time, I'll show you. You got to identify potential manufacturers. You got to begin the sample making process and review and revise and order more samples and finalize the sample. And then you have to create a Kickstarter campaign because you don't have the money to buy 150 pieces off the bat. And you're not even sure that people are going to buy it. You don't want to end up with a garage full of clothes that no one's going to buy. You got to launch your Kickstarter and fulfill your orders. And then if you're successful, you're like, well, do I do it again? I don't know, I'm not there yet. I'm at this point, manufacturing troubles. Here we got, I tried to make a repeating pattern and thought my manufacturer would know what to do with that. And as you can see how it just like cuts off because it's not repeating. Not great. This was the original design of the pocket on one of the hoodies, and someone said, it looks like a uterus. Back to the drawing board. This is the wings on the back of the hoodie. And I'm like, all right, this is how like the colors are supposed to look, and that's how the colors look. And I'm like, what's not adding up here, my guy? So it was a lengthy process. We started with like 3 or 4 manufacturers. We got down to 1. Like we ordered a sample from 1 of the manufacturers, and they arrived. And it was like excitement, disappointment, excitement. This is gonna need to be fixed. I'm so excited it's like actually here. There's 13,000 things that need to be fixed. I sent this man like a PowerPoint that I converted to a PDF. So we'll look at that in a second. I want to show you the samples and also this. This is a cool thing. I was supposed to have 2 of these, but this is what they send you when they need you to pick a color of fabric. And there's a lot of options, and taking pictures doesn't really do it justice. So I picked, based on pictures, what color? This one, 64. And it ends up being a lot more blue than I initially thought. So we're going with like 67, I think. Good thing I have this, but when I ordered my first sample, I didn't. So now I'm like, okay, things need to be changed. But this is all of the colors that they offer of this fabric. They were supposed to send me one of these also for the hoodie fabric. They did not. So they're sending it to me hopefully in the next round of samples so that I can actually make sure that things are the right color. But this is important. So it's called a swatch book. So you can see how the fabric feels and what the color options are and that kind of thing. And then we have the samples. And the samples are great. It's a great start, but things also need to be fixed. So here's the hoodie. No. All right. Here's my hoodie. And I think it turned out good. I have complaints, but I was going to say I have no complaints. I do, but it's a really good start. We've got the wings on the back, much better color situation going on here. I won't get into like everything that's wrong with them. I can point out a couple things. It's also hard to hold things up and the mic, but I'm doing my best. Here's the pants. And there's a really fun thing about the pants, and I'll show you. Oh no, I'm out of time. Too bad. Thank you. I know I'm a genius. I like things to be wearable in a lot of situations and circumstances, and I like things to be comfortable, and I don't like it when I get too hot. And hey, if I get too hot, shorts, baby. But also, I like to keep accessibility in mind, and there's situations where you need your clothes to fit a certain way or feel a certain way. And so I tried to keep that in mind in the design process. Like one of the things I really wanted was to have like a ring on the zippers so that people with limited dexterity in their fingers could have an easier time pulling it. And I'm still trying to work that out. But that's one thing. This situation, we actually decided to scrap it for this reason. It's like you're walking and it's like jingle bells. Not great, super annoying, sensory overload. But, the hoodie's like super soft and doesn't have weird seams. And, speaking of seams, I did not specify because I thought, common knowledge, the proper seam in jeans and cargo pants is a flat-felled seam. But if you don't tell manufacturers that, they will cut corners. So this is just overlocked. And if you look at like the hem of your t-shirt or like sleeve or whatever, that's an overlock. It's the simplest stitch. It's not particularly sturdy. Fast fashion companies like to do this fun trick where they do an overlock and then a top stitch, and then from the outside, it looks like it's flat-felled. And from the inside, it's very much not. So I specified, hey, next round of samples, this needs to be a flat-felled seam. That's what's proper. It's more comfortable and it lasts longer. I don't want my stuff to be in landfill. I want it to be wearable for a long time and comfortable for a long time. Sustainability is a huge thing for me, and comfort and accessibility is a huge thing for me. So, I want to be able to serve a population of nerds, that doesn't necessarily see themselves catered to in fast fashion. I've spoken to a lot of people with sensory issues, people with different disabilities, and they'll say like, I loved this hoodie, I can never wear it because it has this one seam that drives me nuts, or it has this one part that's too itchy or too tight, I can't, or when I'm sitting in my wheelchair it rides up uncomfortably, that kind of thing. I'm trying to take that into account so that it's not an issue. Obviously there's no one size fits all, there's no universal fix, but I'm doing my best. So that's mostly everything. I don't know how much time I have to get into a couple more things.
I think it's not as I think if you have like a separate thing about the tech pack, maybe we'll save that for another time.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe we could take a couple questions.
Sure.
Unless there was like one final thing you want to say before we do questions.
I just had this slide to show like where these details come from. So this is Lumine. She's from Genshin Impact. She's my muse for this set. So the constellation up there is over here. Right over here. The wings that you see here are what's on the back, and the flowers in her hair, called intevats, are here on the pocket. So that's kind of how I designed this hoodie, taking motifs and things that are important to her character. The part that looked like a uterus is this motif on her dress. So we had to scrap that. But yeah, that's about it.
Do you have to worry about like copyright with the designs from the?
That's a great question. So Hoyoverse, the video game company that owns Genshin Impact, has a really lenient policy surrounding fan art and fan recreations and things like that. And depending on the like size of business that you are and like how many people you're working with, you can make like 150 to 250 pieces of fan merchandise without having to go and get a licensing agreement with them. So it means that I can release 150 of these sets, and once they're gone, they're gone. I have to design something new, or else go and get a licensing agreement with them. But it's really great because it allows small businesses to show their love of a fandom without having to pay an exorbitant amount of money to do so.
Two more questions.
How did you land on like that character?
She is one of the two like MCs of the game. So when you start the game, you get the option to play as Lumine or Aether. So for my first set, I figured I would go with them. Plus, they're twins. I'm a twin. I have a twin brother. Boy-girl twin sets. Gravity Falls, Maple and Dipper Pines. Like they're my favorite characters. So I went with that.
And any last questions?
What is your favorite part of this project so far?
Getting to actually see it and hold it in my hands and actually be like, okay, like we're getting somewhere, has been my favorite part so far, because this has been a lot of like tiptoeing, like I don't know what I'm doing, I don't know if this is gonna work, I don't know if anyone's gonna buy it, I have to like do 17 things I've never done before. It's if not for my dad helping me out and like keeping me on track. My dad is an entrepreneur. He started his own business. He's done this before. I would not be where I am. So, yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you. Give it a
Thank you.
And if you have more questions for Max is here 4 days a week?
3.
3 days a week. And yeah, feel free to come ask. Yeah. And if you want to learn more about this stuff, Max also as one of our Max is one of our maker mentors, which means they also do like private lessons. So if you wanted to like learn how to sew or get into like making tech packs or creating things like this yourself, you can talk to me or Max about how to do like the one-on-one maker mentorship.